Over the years, rally games have really struggled to get it all right, but today, the sim program that we're going to be looking at might just be the first to be deemed a proper simulator because they have finally nailed everything. This sim makes every other simulator program look like a game. I'm willing to bet you my mustache that by the end of this video, you will be convinced that this is the single greatest rally sim out there. Most realistic too. It's not a WRC title, much to my amazement. It's also not Richard Burns Rally. The game we're talking about today is taking the crown from Dirt Rally 2.0, becoming arguably the greatest rally sim of all time. And it's still in beta. It's still under development. The future of rally sim racing is here, and it is this: Assetto Corsa Rally. Dun, da, da, ga. Everyone else on YouTube has all kinds of demonstrations of what the gameplay looks like. I'm going to be doing the same thing, but the focus of this video is going to be looking at all the little features and details the developers added that make this sim program stand head and shoulders above everyone else. We're going to cover why this is the only rally sim you're ever going to need, my honest reactions to its current shortcomings, and then I'll show you all the reasons why this simulator is better than any other game out there. I'm going to convince you why this is the only simulator you will ever need. Reason number one, their stages are laser scanned. This is the only rally game to have laser scanned stages. I don't think you understand how big of a deal this is. The amount of detail and precision you can get from that is just absolutely mind-blowing. That aspect alone makes it outshine all the competition. Bear in mind that ACR currently has a monopoly on the market. No one else is doing anything remotely similar to what these guys are working on right now, so they can do as little work as they want. And yet here they are creating the new standard of rally simulators. Next major reason, ACR is officially partnering with the FIA, along with a bunch of other rally drivers that have genuine real-world experience and are helping with the development of the game to make it more authentic. Dudes like Ryan and John are a couple of fantastic examples. Reason number three, EA Sports and Codemasters have effectively dropped all rally development, which means that any WRC titles and Dirt Rally 2.0 is no longer going to be developed or supported. No more updates, no more DLCs, no more online community, anything like that. So if online rally racing is something that's important to you, really, this is the only game you can use. All right, next up we got the biggest problems with this rally sim. Now, bear in mind that everything I'm about to list is polish and icing on the cake. I'm nitpicking because I've had like some experience in real life with these sorts of cars. So naturally, I want a realistic experience when I'm sitting at home in my basement, right? The physics handling and overall performance is how you would expect it to feel. However, there are a handful of things that aren't quite where they should be. First thing is individual car feel and development. Yesterday, I spent over 5 hours sitting in my sim just exploring this game, and only 1.5 of those hours was actually spent driving. When I did get to driving, I could immediately tell which cars had been in previous versions of the game, as they were clearly not all made equal. Two beautifully contrasting examples of the Hyundai i20N and the Subaru S3. Physics-wise, the i20N behaved like you would expect it to. It was predictable, it was understandable, and it was honestly a joy to drive. The Subi, on the other hand, is one of the most iconic rally machines in history, and it feels like a 300 horsepower hockey puck, honestly. Like, it just slides around everywhere. And the i20N was in version 0.1 since the first release several months ago. The Subi, on the other hand, has only been available for several weeks. The fact that it's sketchy to drive just isn't right. It's got a low flat boxer engine, a long wheelbase. It should be easy and fun to drive from everyone from a beginner to an expert, and it's just undrivable right now. But that is going to be fixed in upcoming updates. I mean, look at every other car that was released in version 0.1. They are phenomenal. So obviously it's only going to get better from here. Like, that just proves how much work these guys are actually putting into it. On that same token, for those of you who don't know about the epic history of the 555 Subi, you don't have to consult Google for it. Built into this game, it literally explains all the history, stats. It's even got trivia on it too, which is wonderful. I mean, Dirt Rally also kind of has that, but it's clear that these guys did their homework because there is an entire history section just about each individual car, and ACR outshines Dirt Rally in like every way in this aspect. And because of those partnerships that we mentioned earlier, this is something that's going to be probably an ongoing relationship with ACR as they continue to add new cars, add people to the community, events, all that fun stuff. Okay, the second thing is tire models. We really need to discuss that. It's weird. When you're braking in a straight line, there are oodles of grip, and the ABS does have a noticeable effect. However, it's like all the braking force and traction is in the longitudinal direction of the tire. As soon as you start to go sideways at all, you just slide. There is no grip. Like, look at these pictures of fresh gravel tires, okay? Look how sharp those edges are. The amount of grip you get going sideways almost exceeds or matches what you would get braking in a straight line in real life, okay? Granted, the car that I drove had worn gravels at the time, but it was still like an incredible amount of grip and way more than what I'm experiencing in the sim here. And don't even get me started on the e-brake. You may as well just turn your rear wheels into a block of ice. Okay, the next major issue is something that is arguably the most important aspect of all sim racing games, to the point where it's so refined that I've kind of come to take it for granted. This issue is the connection between the physics and the behavior of the car in-game and the force feedback of the wheel. There's something not right here. Before you get overly confused, just let me explain. Look at the detail on the road. First off, from a graphics point of view, it is outstanding. You can see everything. However, I can't feel a difference. There's practically no difference in texture from feel or sound in this game between the grip line and being off the grip line where there's more loose gravel portions. I also can't really feel a difference in vibration or feedback between the gravel and the grass. There's definitely a traction difference, but you don't know until your wheels start losing grip and you're sideways. Like, look at this particular portion here. It took me getting ditched at least 6 times to finally realize that this area is actually sand. I can vaguely see a difference in the surface texture, but I couldn't feel the steering get heavier or the car become less responsive like you would expect when driving through sand. There's absolutely no grip here, and normally like you can feel the change in surface, which is a bit of a giveaway, but in this case, the only giveaway was that you were in the tulips. So look at the road ahead of us in this clip. My brain came to learn that the road itself was one level of traction, and then off the road, there was another level of less traction. There's a very small blend between those two areas, but it's not huge or well-defined. I've even taken the time to try out each surface type: dirty, green, fast, optimal, all that fun stuff. And I felt zero difference between each one. I did, however, feel a very notable difference between dry, like normal conditions, full wet, full snow, and then full wet and snow together. That being said, the only one that actually feels truly accurate is the dry. Like, it's cool that they have the features, but it doesn't feel quite right. That being said, it does feel as you would expect. The wet portions are definitely a lot more slippery, and then snow is kind of similar. Like, it feels the same as wet, just slightly less slippery, and it doesn't feel like there's any ice. Even changing the weather setting to blizzard, the falling snow didn't actually change the traction on the ground. It was just a visual thing, and it felt like you were still driving in normal dry conditions. When there was snow on the ground, the temperature went from +6 to -6. You know, when you have that sort of temperature difference, you can often notice a slight, like, engine performance boost because of the denser cold air. I didn't feel that with this at all. The car behaved exactly the same. On top of that, while driving in the wet, when I drove through like a puddle or a splash zone or like pool of water or something, there was, again, like zero difference in traction. There also wasn't a sound associated with it. The car behaved the same while driving through the water, it felt the same, and it sounded the same. Like, it's as if the water was just there cosmetically. I don't know if the road surface details and the force feedback are connected, but the force feedback was a whole other issue on its own. You can see in this clip, right away, my wheel was absolutely dead. After 40 minutes of dicking around with the force feedback settings, these are the settings that I landed on. So take a screenshot of this for your future reference. If you got Fanatec gear, hopefully this makes your life easier. If not, you're missing out. My affiliate link's in the description. Click on it, it'll take you straight to the Fanatec website, and you can buy the sim gear of your dreams. These settings are far from perfect, but they're good enough for now. So real quick, here's the rest of the items that I would love to see sorted out before the full release of this game. First off, automatic wipers. Your co-driver usually has a little button in his footwell, so the driver doesn't always have to stress about it. Next, paste notes that you can actually edit. Of all the things that this game is capable of, this is probably the bottom of the priority list, okay? This is like an entire development rabbit hole in itself, so if this never becomes a feature, I understand, but please make it a thing. You'll make a lot of people very, very happy. Next is manually adjusting fuel levels. You can see when driving, it says what your fuel level is, just set to 30 liters, which is great. However, it does just preload you with whatever you need, and it's just sort of static. It would be nice when doing a proper rally if it told you what the minimum level was that you needed, and then you were able to select how much more you added, kind of deal. Maybe you've only got 1 spare tire in your trunk instead of 2, and as a result, the rear end becomes way too squirrely. If you have the option to overfill your tank, you can actually control the weight and balance a little bit. And that brings me on to the next point. I can't select how many spares I have. It's just not even an option to select. Like, spare tires are not considered at all right now, which, you know, is not an issue seeing as you can't pop a tire. Believe me, I have tried. Which leads me into my next reaction. Look at this. This is so cool. This is so cool. This is how I felt after discovering that you can actually manually change your tire pressure. That is incredible. And the compound, like I'm still, man, even like after this, after a day, like I am still so incredibly like happy about that. Anyways, I've taken the pressure out of all the tires and tried driving around on that. And buddy, let me tell you, I would rather be driving around on just straight rims. I wish the wheels would pop. You'd probably have more grip that way. It's actually incredible how much of a difference it makes. I've also tried overinflating them. See what that's like. The optimal pressure is 32 PSI normally, and when you can definitely feel a difference when you inflate or deflate the tires a little bit. And on top of that, you can choose the individual pressures per wheel and the individual compounds. Angels singing, like it's just so wonderful. On the note of not being able to pop a tire, you also can't total the car. Again, I have tried. I never thought I'd be disappointed about driving an unkillable car, but here we are. Even in moments where it should have been properly totaled and wrapped around a tree, it was still driving away. And as a fun little physics test, at one point I have the car upside down. I floored it at the top of 5th gear and then slammed on the brakes. Doing something like that in real life would do two things. One, your engine would just cook itself because all the oil's like dumped in the way that it should not be. Secondly, it would snap your drive lines. The momentum of the wheels spinning and suddenly coming to a stop, like your drivetrain isn't designed to take something like that, so you would have some pretty serious damage. And yet my transmission was perfectly fine after that. I was able to drive away, and there was no issues with the drive line. So that part's a little game-like, and that is a bit of a minor detail. But given the amount of option you have, I feel like stuff like that should be considered. Lastly, I don't have the foggiest idea how to get telemetry out of this game. Like, I have no idea how I would get my data from Assetto Corsa Rally into Motec in order to study it. You can do that for Dirt Rally 2.0, which is incredibly helpful when you're trying to set world records and stuff. But for ACR, it just doesn't seem like it's a possibility yet. I don't know. If you guys know a way to do this, please comment below, all right? I will love you forever if you do and be eternally grateful, along with everyone else who will say thank you in the comments. Now, please note that all of the things that I just listed above, they're not deal breakers, especially because this game is still in beta. It's just polished. It's gonna be further developed. It's only gonna go up from here, okay? I'm looking forward to the day when we can look back on this video right here and be like, oh, remember those issues? No, because the sim is just so amazing. Those days, the good times are coming, just you wait. And now, before we dive into the next part of the video, the best part of the video, where I talk about all the funsy stuffs, I'd like to say if you've stuck around this long, you are awesome. Don't forget that. I just want to say thank you. Please like and subscribe to help keep this channel ad-free so that interruptions like this don't last longer than 10 seconds. Now here's a list of things that are awesome about ACR. Unlike Dirt Rally 2.0, you can use your SimRig inputs and your keyboard while driving. I know that may not seem like a huge deal, but lately, personally, I've been using my sequential shifter as my handbrake. Now, with this game allowing these features, I can use my sequential shifter as a sequential shifter and use my spacebar as the handbrake. It is a little bit sketchy, but I would say it's better to have that than no handbrake at all and no sequential shift. Because sometimes the steering angles are so crazy, there's no way you're gonna be able to paddle shift effectively. You kind of need that column. And not having this just makes me sad. The next is how easy it is to use your various settings for your gearbox. Unlike Dirt Rally, you do not have to pause the game, select sequential mode with clutch, or just sequential mode, H pattern with clutch, whatever. You just do it. You can turn on the clutch override. Other than that, you just sequential shift, or H pattern shift, and the game will just do it on the fly, like whatever you need. Like this reminds me a lot of Jack Newman and his Ford Escort, where he can use his paddles and his column as needed. Like, this feature is epic. If you don't have an H pattern shifter and you try to drive an H pattern car, it does make it semi-realistic, where when braking, there is like an unloaded portion where you can feel the car shifting, and then you can like feel the gearbox engage. If all you have is 2 pedals and shifter paddles, you can still enjoy the H pattern experience to a degree. It's not the same, but you get what I'm saying. The next awesome feature is the amount of detail you are given before heading out on a stage. It shows you road width, elevation, the percentages of what kind of surface you're on, etc. And yes, I know other games give you this info. However, the presentation here is so wonderful. It basically gives you like a briefing card before you head out, and this can really help with strategy, especially when fuel is like going to be changing on the go. Again, this may not seem like a massive deal, but this is really going to help you with your plan of attack and stuff. As your fuel wears down, you need to tweak your brake bias, and if you're doing a hill climb and then a hill dive, Being able to change your brake bias at a certain point on the stage is going to help you find several tenths of a second, especially if you're driving like a 30-kilometer stage. Like, that is an incredibly helpful feature, just the data. Granted, this is another thing that takes a lot of experience to get proficient in and get to know the feel of. But once you do, it makes a world of difference. And this information here is incredibly helpful. Not to mention, we have the geographical location of where this is. Like, you can hop on a Google Maps and do your own map reconnaissance for this stage. Like, that is incredible. I'm nerding out way too hard about this. Okay, we gotta focus. Oh yes, and the brake bias is the next most incredible feature. You can tweak your car's behavior on the fly using brake bias. Oh, that's so amazing. I can't tell you how happy this makes me. So each button press is 0.5%, which is actually pretty clutch. If I just push and hold, will it keep going? No, it won't. So my minimum brake bias is 25%. So that's 3/4 of the brake bias to the rear. And if I go down, it flashes red. And if I go up, it flashes green. So out of the corner of my eye, I could see if I'm increasing or decreasing. Oh my God, that's incredible. And my maximum brake bias is, drumroll please, 75%. Okay. The whole point of having like an e-brake that you pull is so that you can basically manually adjust the brake bias. So normally what you can do is push the brake bias a little further forwards and then use the e-brake to balance it out in certain turns, not necessarily to just lock up. That's why I don't like using this as an e-brake, because it's either locked or unlocked. It's not awesome, but it gets the job done. However, in this sim, because you can tweak the brake bias with a push of a button, oh my God. I don't even know what to say. I'm just so excited that that's a feature. I'm like overwhelmed with happiness. I can't even express how epic this is. And then there's also the start procedure. Every other rally game, you start at the start line, all right? But here, it's like you would do in real life, where you're kind of like 20, 30 meters back, whatever. You see the car go, and in real life, you would wait for your time interval for you to go, whether it's 1 minute, 2, 7, whatever. It depends on the event, all right? But regardless, right before you do go, you can spin your tires and then like ride the brakes coming up to the start line to get your brakes and tires warmed up as much as possible. But that is going to be an incredibly helpful feature, like moving up to the start line on your own. Like, that aspect is very realistic and is absolutely something that rally simmers should get used to doing, because when you end up in a real rally car one day, that is something you're gonna have to do and will make a load of difference on your launch. And that's the other awesome thing. This little tire menu down there, oh my God, it's so outrageously helpful. It shows you if you're on hards, mediums, or softs. It shows if your tires are at optimal pressure, and it also gives you a pretty solid idea as to what your tire temperatures are at, which is data that you don't normally get in the real world. So this is incredibly helpful for educational purposes. On top of that, it shows you your brake temperature. I don't know if it's brake temperature or wear or whatever, that hasn't been explained quite yet, but right now all of that is just static. It's just set, so we know it's going to be a feature. We just don't know how exactly it's gonna work. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Like, this feature alone is what's gonna take people from noob level to elite, okay? The tires are arguably the most important aspect of any performance car, because it's the part that connects the vehicle to the ground for traction. So having options on how you can control that, like, you may never have to dick around with tuning. If nothing else, you should figure out tire pressures and temperatures and stuff like that to the best of your abilities, because that can make or break things one day. And when the time comes that that feature is fully functional and you start to see that your tires are getting overheated, guess what you can do? Turn on ABS and traction control on the fly. Check this out. This little menu here, you can like turn on or off the TCS and ABS features, and then you can also tweak them as you drive. And let me tell you, the ABS is incredibly helpful. It makes a massive difference. When you're braking and you lock up and you turn the wheel, nothing's gonna happen until you let off the brakes and your fronts start rotating again, okay? But with the ABS turned on, if you're full locked up and ABS is activated, you turn the wheel, the car will still turn. And there's 3 levels, okay? There's ABS 1, 2, and 3. 1 is like the least amount of ABS, so closest to lockup. And 3, your braking distance is extended, but if you turn it's gonna turn. It took me by surprise a couple times. Traction control right now is just straight up useless, okay? Quite often rally cars just have it so that they can be street legal and be deemed a road safe vehicle or whatever, but don't use traction control, okay? Especially in gravel. Asphalt's a different conversation. Being able to turn on ABS as you go from gravel to asphalt, mind blown. Right now in version 0.4, there is no mixed surface, and each stage is just 100% a single surface type. However, when the time comes, there are multi-surface stages, and you do take a transition from gravel to asphalt. This feature is absolutely clutch. Yes, I'm going to acknowledge that those of us who are hardcore are going to say that it's more authentic of an experience to drive without ABS, which is true. Driving without ABS is also more skill testing for the driver, which is why ABS isn't really allowed in Formula 1 and other high-level motorsports. It's meant to be a test of driving skill. Plus, when the time comes, you get enough experience that you know exactly where that threshold braking point is. You can actually get a shorter braking distance manually braking than you can with ABS, which is absolutely wonderful. High risk, high reward is basically how this works. That's a very advanced skill, and this information isn't new. Now, for those of us that realize that we are not quite at that skill level yet, ABS is an incredibly helpful tool. In the gravel, like off-road, having ABS off can actually be helpful for extending your braking distance a little bit. However, no ABS on an asphalt setting on gravel tires is basically a death sentence if you lock up, okay? It can be really scary, trust me. If you flat spot, even if you survive that corner, your consistency in handling and focus is gonna go out the window. Your wheel's gonna be vibrating like crazy. It's not gonna be fun. You're not gonna be able to get as much performance out of the car because it's shaking so damn bad. So having ABS off for dirt and then being able to flip it on real quick as you get to an asphalt section, that is an incredibly useful tool. The other thing that you could tweak on the fly is engine map. Now I'm still figuring that out. It seems like engine map number 1 is good and 2 is better performance, but it's hardly noticeable. Again, being able to feel the difference properly is something you have to get to a very high skill level in order to feel. But it seems like engine map 2 is a little bit better. Okay, the next most amazing part of all this is how the crowd behaves. Look at these clips. Like these are dudes running off the road just to get that money shot to post on their Instagram feed. Like this stuff happens in real life, as sketchy as it is. And the way that the crowd moves, like the movements, the body movements, the positioning, I don't know, like it's just incredible. Like it tricked my brain at one point yesterday to making me think I was actually at a rally stage. Like it was really cool. So in conclusion, is this game perfect? No. But this development phase is arguably better than the full developed version of other equivalent games, okay? I know I've listed a lot of negatives, but that is me nitpicking all the differences between simulator and reality, a line that is becoming increasingly more blurred and much thinner, especially with the release of Assetto Corsa Rally. So, in conclusion, go try this sim, okay? I genuinely don't care if you're watching this in 2026 or 2066, okay? You owe it to yourself to know what a good rally experience feels like. Go and play this game. On top of that, if you're watching this within the first few months of this video being released, go try and set a world record, okay? The time trial leaderboards are practically empty. With Dirt Rally 2.0, it's been out for 6 years, so there's thousands and thousands of people who have given it a go. But for Assetto Corsa Rally, I don't even think it's broken 4 digits yet in some areas. Like, if you want to set a world record, you probably can. Go give it a shot. And that kind of stuff is exactly the sort of challenge you would expect to take on with Dirt Rally anyways. So go see how Assetto Corsa Rally compares head to head. And if you'd like to see some of that, click here. Please.